Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So, Dean, of course, you all know Dean Webb. You've heard him on our radio show for a long time. We always learn so much about Faith Farm. In fact, it's almost like, Dean, that I mentioned Faith Farm to people, and very few people don't know. Now, they don't know what you really do there. They think it's just a thrift shop, but that They have heard this name. Do you find that?
We have great brand recognition, but we have very little knowledge of what we do. I had a lady, we have a voting booth in the back of our church during elections. We provide that to the county. And we had a lady was putting a sticker on me that I voted. Have you? And at the last election, and I said, "Thank you so much." I said, she said, "I just love this place. I've been given to Faith Farm for 12 years." And I said, "Oh, thank you so much." I said, "You do know what we do, right, with the proceeds?" And she looked at me like, cocked her head and says, "No, I don't think I really know." I said, "No, wait a minute. You've been giving to us for 12 years, and you don't know what we do." She said, "Well, I know you're a thrift store." I said, "No, but do you know what we do with the money?" And she said, "Honestly, I don't." I said, "What if I told you we were a 440-bed, free 10-month residential drug and alcohol recovery program?" She said, "That'd be great if that's what you were." I said, "Ma'am, that's what we are." She said, "You mean all these proceeds you use to fight the opioid project and the crisis and to transform people's lives?" And I said, "Absolutely. We turn people upside down. They go from takers and everything to get stealers to get money for their fix and put them back as tax-paying citizens. We help them get jobs and we help them get college education if they need it." She said, "Oh, I'm so glad to know that. I think that's wonderful." So you're right, Anita. A lot of people know about us, but don't know us.
True. And now that you're on the subject of all the people, so we know that hurricane season is upon us, and I know you suffered a lot last year. And, of course, you put you in debt. It was very hard. We do try to get donations to take care of things. But let's go through that. So all right, let's say we know we have a tropical storm, and, okay, it looks like it's going to be much worse. Tell me what you do, because you have 3 campuses.
Right. And what I have is a hurricane action plan for each of the 3 campuses because they are different. The one up in Okeechobee, we've got fencing and cattle and groves and all that, and the thrift store in town at Okeechobee. The other 2 campuses, Lauderdale's got high-rise buildings, 10 acres, and it's relatively very urban. And the Palm Beach County campus is 90 acres, and it's very open and got a lot of grass. What we do, I'll use the Boynton Beach one first. What we do is we go through, and the first thing we do is we usually have to hire a lift truck, one of those scissor things, where you can raise it up, scissor up a module, and then they start cutting the lower branches of our palm trees and trimming those, because those all become projectiles in a hurricane. So we cut up all the lower limbs and anything that's dead or anything like that. We go over the 90 acres, pick all that stuff up and haul it off to make sure we don't have coconuts and leaves and limbs and stuff become projectiles through the glass windows. And then, of course, we have to batten down the hatches on all of our we cover up all of our stuff that we have for recycling, because we have a large recycling thing of plastics and glass and that sort of thing, metals. And so we cover those up. And, of course, in the buildings themselves, of course, when it's imminent, we have to close everything up. We have plywood we put over our storefront because we have big glass windows, as you can imagine, across the store fronts of our thrift stores. So we have to glass up the windows and put boards over them, the glass, and then we do everything we can. Some things you don't have control over, like Hurricane Irma, for example. The thing that you mentioned that put us so much in debt is we had 2 transformers behind our store. We have a 20,000 square foot store that has both new and used furniture. And by the way, if somebody's looking for a bargain, we're the 3rd largest Ashley furniture dealer of new furniture at the Boynton campus. So anybody can shop there. But anyway, what happened is one of the two transformers went out. When one went out, it tripped the other one, and so they both went out. We had no power. We had no power for like 11 days.
What?
Well, yeah, and so for that situation, you have to wait. Everything's a priority, and we should have been a high priority. Something got messed up. We don't know what exactly, but it was 11 days before we got those two transformers back online.
Well, excuse me, because you're right next to the hospital in Boynton.
And yeah, so we should have been number one. Usually if you're close to a police station or a hospital, you're usually pretty good on the power grid. I found that out. I was traveling up in Lakeland, Florida, a seminar, and we were right next to the police station. Our hotel never lost light. Everybody else had no power once, and we were fine because we were next to the police station. So police stations and on the grid are really safe, fire stations and hospitals. So,
but what about generators? Did you not have generators?
We did have generators, but 20,000 square feet is a lot to generate. We had enough to generate like our corporate office. Of course, nobody was here to work. We were home taking care of our, batting down the hatches on our own homes, and so we weren't here. But had we been here, we have an automatic generator that kicks in. We do have people over here. We also have people in the store, and they had generators. But the generators were enough to power part of it, but not the entire part. And of course, when in the thrust of the storm, we do have underground tanks that we can draw from for diesel and fuel. But getting out in the storm, once those big reserve tanks for those generators get low, it's hard to transport that and to fill it because the winds were really high winds. So once you get to the bottom of the tank for your generator that feeds your generator, you usually go dry unless you've got some way to get out there in the storm and get it over to your tank to refill. So it's usually, and what we do at the Boynton campus, our people live in trailers, our staff, so we move them all into the store, and so they all batten down the hatches, and they're in the store. They're in sleeping bags. They're on the beds that we have on display to sell, and on the couches. It's just a giant flop house during a hurricane, but it's safe because it's a CVS building. It's got steel girders above above them, holding up the roof, so it's a safe place. But it's pretty interesting to ride that out.
What about flood? What about flood? Were you flooded?
We weren't flooded. Now, there's a certain area out on the back side of the property, back where our lakes are and where our ball field and where we have our homecoming celebration back there. We have about 30 to 40 acres on the back side that usually floods quite a bit, but we have automatic valve pumps that will pump those out of the canals and into the Canal 23, which runs alongside our property and empties into the canal down the side of US 441 in front of our property. So we have a way to keep that from getting, these are huge pumps, by the way. The floats are, they're as big as a football, that once those things drop, are pushed up by the water level, those huge pumps, and I mean, the pipe's a full foot in diameter. So these 12-inch pipes are shooting all this water into the canal system. So it's quite an operation.
Oh my goodness, I know, because I was thinking about you and what you do, because you have a lot of people on campus, you have a lot of students. Right,
and we a lot of times when parents will see the news and they get scared, and sometimes parents, we have people from all the way from absolutely homeless with nothing to people that are very wealthy that have their kids come here, even though it's free because they know their lives are going to get turned around. But sometimes when they see all the news and stuff, they start calling and they want to pull. They say, we're going to send a car for our student and get them out of here, either to the airport or to a private plane or whatever. And we allow them to go because we're not going to, it's a volunteer program, so we're not going to hold anybody against their will ever. But we had about a third of our students at the Boynton campus, for example, the parents either sent cars or planes or something.
I didn't know that. You lost about a third of your students?
Yeah, but now they came back.
I know that. I know they
came back.
That's amazing.
we don't discriminate in terms of income. Even though we're free, we do have people sometimes that are very well-to-do. They've got their own Gulfstream jet and stuff, and they'll send for their students. Not a lot. I don't want to intimate that, but actually, I always think that those people should be our main contributors. But anyway, that's another story. But,
yes, they should. Give me their names.
Yeah, we don't take names, but we really trust for God to provide for our finances and to move on the hearts of people to give when they do. So that's been a blessing when they do that. But yeah, it's quite a mix of people on the income levels, educational levels, and whatever. So it's amazing that for 66 years this program has really worked so smoothly with such a variety of people.
So now my question to you, though, is that, you're really a jack of all trades. You've been in a lot of business. You know so much. That's a lot of responsibility for one man to know how to make sure everything is done.
Well, thankfully, I've got wonderful people whose hearts are really into this ministry and caring for and ministering to and protecting the students that are residents here. And so I have a campus director and assistant director at each of the 3 locations, and each location also has a pastor and his wife, and so they all pitch in to do whatever they need to do. And there's a very structured hierarchy in terms of the flow chart and the organizational chart, so everybody knows what they're supposed to. Each person has written directions on what to do. So when the director gives them the signal to start doing what they do, they do it. Like, for example, we have, on the Boynton store, we have a 45-foot deep by 220-foot long canvas on poles that we shelter our furniture. Well, 140-knot wind will lift that up like an umbrella. We'll invert it. So we designed it with end caps, triangular end caps, to help keep the shade, but we can undo that roping all the way, and when you allow the air to flow through, it won't lift. Huh. So there are a lot of little details like that we do to help protect the property.
Smart guy, yeah. It's really is something that I've been thinking about it, because you are running a huge organization. Now you have to multiply it times 3, so you get right. One organized. Everybody, so. You got to think what everybody's doing. I mean, everybody's cell phones are going crazy, and to make sure that everyone's okay.
Yeah, and like I said, we have a hurricane plan that's totally individually unique for each of the 3 campuses, because they all have different environments, different needs, and different structures. And so the hurricane plan is modified for each campus. And we review those annually to make sure around April or so, I tell them, don't forget your hurricane plan, review it, and let's make whatever changes we need based on last year's experience and that sort of thing. So we're always finally tweaking them to hopefully do the best. And the funny thing is, on Irma, the thing I was mostly, worried about is we had just gone through a major calving. We had like 45, 48 little baby calves in the field. Oh. And you know what? They all just laid down and in the grass, and they were fine. We didn't lose a single one of them. It was amazing.
That's interesting. They just know what to do, huh?
Yeah, they just laid down flat, and the winds went above them, and they made it through. They know enough not to lay down by the pond, the low ground where it drains. Right. They lay up higher, but still, it's even on the higher ground, it's low enough that the wind, they're not even a foot off the ground, the side of their body. So we did not lose a single little baby calf. That was just amazed me.
That is good. So you're so this time though, we're all hoping it doesn't come. We don't get anything as severe as we had last time. But just getting back to. You did lose the generators, I guess. Let's see, what cost you so much money that you lost last time that's put you into such deep arrears?
It was the loss of revenue, the 11 days without our store. See, our main source of revenues, we would love for people to donate to us, and some do, thank God. But predominantly, people are aware that we fund ourselves through our microbusiness enterprise, our cattle, our orange groves, our thrift store, our recycling. And so when that store, it so happened that Irma fell on the weekend that we'd planned a huge sale, a big 2-day sale for Friday and Saturday. And luckily, when it looked like it was going to hit, I was able to stop the television advertising. We saved about probably about 45,000 in TV ads, and we stopped all the radio ads. They ran for one day before I could get them stopped because we commit months in advance to them. So I paid the penalty and stopped them because we had to board up the stores and stuff. But the problem is we project cash flows for those sales, and so based on 11 days without the store being opened, and we're open 6 days a week. Only Sundays are we closed. So that was over Sunday, but it was like from the middle of one week all the way through the end of the following week that the transformers were out and we had no power. So that loss of cash flow really hurt us because we don't have a lot of reserves or that sort of thing, and so we operate on cash flow. Our Dun & Bradstreet rating is excellent because we always pay our bills. But we put all our money back in the program. 95.5 cents of every dollar that comes in is put into our program, and the rest is administrative costs, 4.5%. So we're very lean machine. We operate very frugally. Some people would say cheap. I say frugal.
Yeah,
but
I know you do.
So we don't have the reserves when something like that goes wrong because we operate really close to the chest, close to the vest, and we really program every little cent, and we pretty good at predicting sales numbers and that sort of thing after 66 years of doing this. So when something happens to interrupt that's, we do preventative maintenance. We look at stuff. We call people out. Our generators, we have a contract, for example, on all our generators. Every year the guy comes out, tests all of them, starts them up, and some of these big things are huge in cages. I mean, they're big diesel John Deere generators. And so they test each one of them, make sure the fuel flows, the reserves are there, and the diesel tanks underground, and test them all. So we do that every year under contract to make sure all those backup diesel generators are working. So we do everything we can. We just can't, when it knocks out transformers or something from Florida Power, something we have no control over, we just have no control over. Yeah. We can't project for that,
Well, I'm gonna go way off into the wild blue yonder. You're going to love this because you know me. Of course, you were in the Navy. You were an officer. Tell me what you did in the Navy.
In the Navy, I retired as a commander, which is the same as a lieutenant colonel in the Army or Air Force. And I was actually a navigator on a C-130. We hauled troops and supplies and stuff in and out of Vietnam. I was stationed in New Jersey, McGuire Air Force Base. That's a funny story. A Navy squadron was so efficient. We were the most efficient squadron in the Air Force because they had more planes and stuff than they could. So we had 230 officers and men in the Navy flying Air Force planes. So that's a weird story. But anyway, we were in the MAC Military Airlift Command System, and we won the outstanding unit citation in the Air Force. So that ticked them off. So they kicked us off their base. So we all got scattered. But anyway, we were very efficient, and we flew missions like into Vietnam. We would leave Dover Air Force Base. We'd load up with whatever our supplies. That could have been a whole load of troops. It could have been jeeps, tanks, whatever, and would fly to California, and there'd be a crew waiting while we went into crew rest. They would take the plane. 12 hours later, we would take the next plane, fly to Hawaii, crew rest, then fly into Guam, and then into Vietnam, then back up the Great Circle route to Alaska, because that was shorter to go up around Japan and up there to Alaska and land at Anchorage, and then somebody'd have our plane, then we'd wait for the next plane, and then we would take it on the Great Circle Road back into Dover or New Jersey. So we would fly those stage missions round and round and round again, over and over and over again into Vietnam.
Well, the reason I mention this is because I think that all that training and everything you did made you a perfect CEO, executive for Faith Farm. Now, and I'm really serious about that because you learn so much of organization and how to do things. And now, even though the model is different, or you don't have the same, it's not the same things, you do have the same outline. Do you think that made a difference? I
think all of my background jobs prepared me to be CEO of Faith Farm. My stint on Wall Street with Merrill Lynch helped me in the financial arena in terms of budgeting and understanding numbers. My time when I left Merrill Lynch and became self-employed in syndicated real estate in 3 states taught me management skills, because I had 2,300 apartments I managed in 3 states that I purchased for investors. And so really and of course I was CEO of Christian Financial Concepts, a nonprofit that we grew about 50% in just 4 years in revenues up in Gainesville, Georgia. And we had live radio stations, daily broadcasts at 3:30 Eastern, all over the world, all the way to Cape Town, South Africa. So we, whether it's the radio or the nonprofit, the Merrill Lynch, the self-employment, all of that played into my abilities to do, because there's a lot to do here at Faith Farm. It's a very big variety of things to do here in terms of CEO. So I feel like God really prepared me, my background, for everything that I do here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I was thinking about all this, because you really have had a diverse background and you've been excellent at everything. And it takes quite a person to be able to, it's almost like I feel like you're a juggler. I brought up the hurricane, but it's almost like being a juggler, because one minute you have to raise funds for something, a very big emergency. The next time, you have to work with what's happening on campus. It's never smooth. And I'm sure, you have times when some of the critical situations, you're dealing with quite a group of men and women. They're not, I want to just say, they're not easy. They're not experienced in living a certain way. So it takes a lot, but you have great managers, and I know that. But it always takes a good CEO or the head of a company to know how to work with the managers. So you have those skills also.
Yeah, I've been really blessed. Like I said, I feel like my background of being in so many different businesses. They even tapped me once to be CEO of a telecommunications company in Atlanta. Well, I had no background in that, and I had to get up to speed quickly and learn, and we ended up selling that out at a profit. So every single bit of my background I utilize here. Even I'm a marketing major from Oklahoma State University, so even I use my marketing in programming all of our sales and our advertising. I do all the contractual on the TV and the radio buys and the magazines and all that stuff. So that played into what I have, because Faith Farm's a very complicated structure.
Yes, I know.
Nonprofit.
Yeah, that's right.
Normal at all.
That's right. So that's the thing. And then the other part about this is you briefly talked about marketing, but you do a lot of helping with other organizations like yours across the country. I mean, you become a model for this.
Oh, yeah. Last year we had 30 different rescue missions come in from as far away as California, Buffalo, New York, Phoenix, Arizona, come in to learn how we do our micro business enterprise, because they all work on donors and direct mail and big dinners and all that stuff, donations, but they would like to have part of their mission funded by micro business enterprise. So they come here to learn how to do that. I think I need to go there and learn how they do the fundraising, because that's what we need. But we're kind of lopsided but I'm very proud of the fact that we do generate our monthly cash flow through business enterprise. And you know what? It provides our students with a wonderful work ethic. Some of them complain about working, but I said, look, while you're in this program, you got other people out in the street, and they're setting an alarm clock and getting up and going to work, and this is going to help you get up to speed to enter the workforce when you get clean and sober and graduate from here. And at that point, I think they understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that they, at least when they come out, they have something they didn't have when they went in, and then you give them a lot of confidence there too, because that is so obvious. When I go to all your graduations, that these people are very thankful, and of course you teach them. I mean, they now learn how to write a resume. They know how to do things, and they come with a lot of experience. You've shared that, of course, with people who work in the furniture department, that they can now go and tell them they've worked in furniture. And the same thing with people who maybe have done great repairs for you. Now they can go and work in servicemen. It's a wonderful thing.
comprehensive work training program, and they actually go through every Monday night. They have an actual course, a 1-hour course of learning what they do during the day. The actual book written part, whether it's selling furniture or whatever, that they have to pass with a 90% rate, and when they pass the exam, they get a CWT certificate for that, whether it's running the call center or docks or trucks or landscaping or food service or selling new furniture, running a thrift store. All those things, they can actually take that out and get jobs with them.
Right. Do many of them go into centers like they are now? Do they want to go to help other people all across the country?
Yes, the drug and alcohol rehab, the secular one. Now we're faith-based, so most of them are not. But even so, our people are in such demand. I could name off a bunch of big rehabs down in the Palm Beach area that our people are really in demand, and they're a little bit frustrated because the faith thing changed their life, and they're not allowed to do that when they go to work. But they love being able to talk to people and help them the way they've been helped. So our people, a lot of big organizations around here hire our people for that, people who want to give back and help other people the way they've been helped here. Like I said, they get frustrated because the thing that changed their life is the faith part of it, and they're not allowed to talk about it, but still everything else they can do, they can mentor people and encourage them and that sort of thing. So they love it. But our people are in demand for that. Right.
And then the other thing that I've been very pleased to see is that, of course, you don't allow children there, but they learned how to, and anyway, I just got to cut off. So we've talked a lot. We've covered a lot of things, and I just want to fast tell everybody, please do go to their website. It's faithfarm.org. Faithfarm.org. Make a contribution. Small, large, whatever it is, help them. They're the most worthy company, I would say, institution that I know of here, not only in South Florida, but anywhere. Thanks, Dean. He is the CEO, and you did a great job as usual.
Thank you, Anita. I love it that you let me talk about Faith Farm.
Of course. Thank you so much, Dean. Goodbye.